In the European Union, inflation rates have hit unprecedented highs, driven by the lingering effects of the pandemic and the subsequent supply chain disruptions. After 3 decades of the annual inflation rate barely touching 3%, it all came tumbling down in late 2021 and 2022, when rates surpassed 10%. Sweden, an EU member state, has largely been in the middle of the pile. While facing significant inflationary pressures, the country has managed to keep its rates relatively subdued compared to other members. December 2022 saw their highest inflation levels in literally decades, when the consumer price index spiked to 12.3%. It has been a gradual decline since then. Sweden is thought of being on the right path to bringing down their inflation to manageable levels. In fact, since that December peak, the rate had declined to 10.5% this April. When the main numbers were released in mid-June, they displayed the same downward trajectory, with the Scandinavian country recording a 9.7% inflation rate. While that number is promising, an intriguing observation emerged. It was slightly higher than what economists had predicted. After closely examining where this unexpected variance came from, the first clues began to emerge. Stripping out energy costs and interest rate changes, the inflation rate had risen by 8.2%. This is referred to as the core inflation, and herein lies the culprit. Analysts were expecting between 7.8% and 8.1%. So there was an unexplained 0.1 to 0.4% difference, and it didn't take long to figure it out. You see, Sweden is a small country of just 10 million people. Its cities are even smaller, with the capital Stockholm barely home to 1 million people. Some things that would pass as routine in America can have visible macroeconomic effects in Sweden. It so happened that one thing in particular happened in the month of May that could explain the discrepancies between the estimates and what it turned out to actually be. For 2 nights in May, on the 10th and 11th, Beyonce was in Stockholm for her Renaissance tour. The 32-time Grammy Award winner is a big shot anywhere she steps foot, and Sweden is no exception. But clearly, other big artists have performed in Sweden before without such effects on inflation, right? Well, yes, but on this occasion it was different. And here's why. These are the prices you can expect to pay for a Renaissance ticket in an American city. You can see the crazy rates, and mind you, this is Philadelphia, not LA or New Jersey. After February this year, word started spreading on TikTok that American ticket prices for the tour were more like a ripoff. The same artist with the same show was charging remarkably less in other countries. In the United States, there was barely a ticket under $300, and that's basically cattle class. Even getting your hands on that was mostly luck, with many getting snapped up and sold on resale websites for $1,000 or sometimes even more. The average ticket price in the United States for the Renaissance tour was estimated by Forbes to be around $700, marginally higher than in Europe. Of particular interest to the Beehive was Stockholm, the city where their idol would commence her tour. Compared to the United States, ticket prices were so cheap that it made sense just to book a return flight plus accommodation to watch the performance in Europe. Some of the best seats in LA or New York were going for $2,000, but only $200 in Stockholm for their equivalent, 10 times more expensive. Even inclusive of a return ticket, the price was still lower, and also came with added benefits of actually visiting Sweden. Once fans figured out this trick that promoters don't want you to know, they got into formation, opened their wallets, and set their sights on Stockholm. From Los Angeles to New York to Dallas, they all embarked on a journey to watch one of the industry's biggest stars perform in a foreign land. Alongside the Swedes, this group filled up the 50,000 capacity Friends Arena twice. We're tentatively looking at 100,000 people in a city of 1 million, all participating in a recreational spending spree. When 10% of your population goes on a collective consumption binge at the same time, the numbers will show up in government reports. Hotels were fully booked 40 miles outside of the stadium, and this is despite their prices going up about 3.3%. Just days before the concert, Visit Stockholm revealed that 96% of all hotels and hostels were fully booked. They advise tourists to be flexible with their accommodation expectations, especially regarding location. Restaurants, museums, fashion, everything saw a rise in attendance and spending. According to Michael Gran, the chief economist at the Swedish bank Danske, Beyonce-induced hospitality and recreational spending in May 2023 very likely contributed to the 0.3% of the consumer price index of the entire country, thus explaining the shortfall in economists' estimates. Separately, Swedbank estimated that spending on culture and recreation grew by 15% the week of Beyonce's performances, compared to the same week a year earlier. Overall, the Renaissance Tour is already being billed as potentially the most successful tour of all time, with optimistic revenue estimates of up to $2.4 billion. She'll be touring 40 cities and making 57 stops. It's worth noting that cheaper ticket pricing in Europe is not a uniquely Beyonce thing. Every major artist does this, and the fact that most currencies, including the Swedish krona, have lost value against the dollar means Americans have increased purchasing power abroad. So, as long as concert tickets, accommodation, and return flights to Europe cities continue to cost less than tickets in the United States, we can anticipate more instances of fans flocking to overseas performances.